we are good to go, my friends. So, and I know there's just a handful of folks here. As if we get a bit of a larger crowd, I'm just going to sort of repeat for the Substack community what's kind of what's going on and why things look a little weird today. Hey, Lacey, how are you? Uh, I'll do that I'll do that in a couple moments. But let me just let's just kind of get started before I go off too far on a tangent. So the let's start with Virginia, because I think a lot of folks are freaking out about Virginia, and I get it. I get it. And I was, and then I changed my mind and I decided I didn't want to do it. I wasn't going to do it anymore. Hey, Lady D, how are you? Um, so as you know, we were fairly the pro democracy community, not just Democrats, but I believe common sense Republicans, anybody who's pro autocracy. At this point, that includes, who would have thought? Even people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Who would have thought? They would begin to wake up, but they are. But it's most of America is really on board with pro democracy efforts at this point. Most of us don't want to become authoritarian uh, subjects of an authoritarian lunatic who also happens to be an imbecile. So that being said, um, there was the Virginia election, right, on Tuesday, and that turned out exactly how we had hoped, right? The Virginia election was, hey Gail, how are you? The Virginia election turned out like we hoped it would turn out, right? It was a little bit the vote was a little bit closer than I think many of us had hoped for, because Democrats didn't come out in huge numbers in Democratic communities, and they will in the midterms. It's we're going to see continued blowouts like we saw in every other election in Virginia come the midterms. I'm not the least bit concerned about that. But the redistricting thing, I guess it wasn't enough to really. It's still not an election for a person. It was just an election for an issue. And so I think it was, what was it, about a 2-point win, one or two? I think it was like a 2-point win for the redistricting effort to move forward. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the Republicans back in late spring of last year and into the summer, the village idiot Donald Trump ordered Republicans in Texas to redraw their electoral maps, and he ordered them to do it mid-decade. Usually, states after the census is taken, states will redraw their district maps. They'll get engaged in all their gerrymandering, and all that shit tends to happen, every 10 years or so. But the Republicans have turned. I mean, Republicans and Democrats have been pretty good at gerrymandering. If you're not familiar with gerrymandering, it's basically an effort to basically recreate the district boundaries in a particular state in order to make it more likely that your party is going to win that district, and make it almost impossible for the other party to win that district. Now, Democrats do it too, but Republicans, it is cheating. I mean, it is just straight up cheating, and both parties engage in it. But we can't both sides the issue anymore with this than we can both sides the issue anymore than anything, because Republicans live, breathe, and die on gerrymandering. You wouldn't have Republican majorities in most states if Republican majorities, once they were elected, hadn't gerrymandered the shit out of the state that they live in. It's just Republicans are just not that popular because they can get elected, sometimes frequently by cheating, but they can't govern. Right? Conservative policies, although they do have value, and when they're normal, they can be very helpful and can counterbalance progressive policies. There's nothing wrong with, moderation in politics caused by one side counterbalancing the other side. But when Republicans are left to their own devices and they're just expected to govern, they generally can't do it. Even in the good old days of the Republican Party when it wasn't a fascist party, and it wasn't a basically a cult for Donald Trump. Republicans were never really all that great at governing, and Democrats were always better than that. And historically, in terms of the economy, Democrats always do better. When there's a Democrat in the White House, the data is pretty clear that the country always does better economically. Republicans, are really good at scaring people into being afraid that they're going to lose their money, or brown people are going to take their money, or some kind of shit like that. But they're not really any good at helping people to make money and helping people who don't have any money be able to get ahead. They are good at helping rich people make more money. They have achieved that goal. But anyway, so these gerrymandering efforts have been around forever, and Donald Trump, as dumb as he is, still knows a few things, very few. And he insisted that, even though this isn't the time for districting, that the state of Texas redistrict their state, even though it was, a mid-decade, and just to cheat, because he is terrified of being impeached again. He is terrified. Donald Trump is the biggest coward of a president that we ever had. He is a chicken shit of epic proportions, and he is scared off his ass of being impeached again. Oh, are we? Did I? Are we? I'm sorry, guys. I didn't check the. I haven't checked the chat. Are we? Are we bouncing out here on? Because I'm streaming today directly through Substack. So I'm streaming. I do have my live stream platform working in. I just have YouTube coming through that, but today's stream is coming. Today's Substack stream is running right through Substack. So I notice, Gail, you're saying I've lost it again. Lacey, me too. And now, Lacey, you are back. So are you guys, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at the chat because I was listening to myself talk because I'm such a fucking narcissist. But were you guys seeing me sort of bouncing in and out on your end? I don't see it at all on my end. Actually, let me bring up the stream somewhere else, because let me just see what's happening, because that will be very informative if that's the case. Very informative. Hang on, guys. Just bear with me. And again, I so apologize for everybody on all the streaming platforms. I mean, I know we just have 2 of them here today, but I so apologize for these couple of days of really shitty streams. I haven't been able to do an effective streams for the last couple of days, at least as far as Substack is concerned. So it's fine now. Streams. It's fine now, so it's working now. Okay, so I'm looking at the stream directly through my Substack streaming platform, and I'm also looking at it as if I'm a viewer on Substack. And then if I look over here, I can see my stream coming through to YouTube through the streaming platform. So if I glitch out through Substack's platform directly using their Substack streaming, that's going to be very informative, because that definitely tells me that the problem is happening with Substack and probably through my house, through something. Thank you, Gail. I'm just joking. I'm just being self-depreciating when I call myself a narcissist. I think we all have a little bit of narcissism in us. Like, I think the yin and yang of just being a human being, affords us the potential to be our worst selves and our best selves at any given moment. It's just that most of us who are decent, we try to make an effort to be our best selves. So, and, a scumbag like Donald Trump and, a lot of the MAGA cult, scumbag like Donald Trump makes an effort to be his worst self, the worst self he can possibly be. And the MAGA cult members, I believe many of them he's so appealing to them because they give him permission to do what's easy and be their worst self. So when I'm so sort of self-depreciating and I say that the narcissist in me is doing this, That's where it's coming from. It's just coming from, well, first, I'm just being sarcastic. And secondly, it's coming from this belief, whether it's true or not, I don't know. I just believe it. This belief that I have that we all have the capacity to be horrible and wonderful. And we just make those choices like that's one of life's great opportunities is to always choose between good and good and evil within yourself. I just think that for whatever it's worth. So anyway, I digress, my friends. So I was gerrymandering. So I was explaining it just briefly for it, for those who may not be familiar with the topic. So in order to not get impeached, because I don't think Trump cares about anything else. I don't even think to a certain extent he gives a shit about his own policies because he doesn't have any. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't understand anything. And I think he'd like a Republican controlled House and Senate because it makes life easier for him. And because the Mike Johnson and John Thune treat him like he's the cult member, king, God figure. And whatever he wants, they do pretty much. Well, not whatever. Thune at least stood up and won't give him won't get rid of the filibuster. So Thune, there's one thing that Thune hasn't done, but everything else he pretty much does. And Donald doesn't want to lose, being the God figure to to these characters. So but he does not want to be impeached. He does not want to be held accountable. He does not want to have to face every day. The Democrats will, whether they actively impeach him after they win the House and the Senate, or whether they just, interfere with his plans, they will hold a mirror up every day of the week like we do. And he will have to look into that mirror and see the kind of just profane, wretched, deteriorating scumbag that he is. And I think that terrifies him. I just feel that way. Um, so, so the idiot, because of his fear, he pressured Governor Abbott, who immediately, relented, and he demanded that the supermajority Republicans in the state of Texas and the state legislature redraw their federal maps. Their district maps, so that Republicans could be almost guarantee themselves 5 additional seats in the U.S. House of Representatives, and the village idiot might be able to cheat and win the midterms somehow. He won't, because Texas has backfired on him exponentially anyway, because the Latinos that he desperately needs to keep those 4 or 5 seats that they gerrymandered aren't with him anymore. He's polling in the low 20s with Latinos at this point, so he's lost. It totally blew up in his face. But and Democrat and the Republicans did it tried this and succeeded in a few other states. Florida's the next one on their list to see if they can pull this off. But California immediately responded. California didn't do the gerrymander in an authoritarian way like the Republicans did, where they just imposed it upon the citizenry. California, Governor Newsom and the state of California put it up for a vote. And the state of California voted to, yes, gerrymander the state in response to the Republicans cheating. So the next state up for grabs is Virginia. And Virginia did the same thing on Tuesday. They voted to gerrymander the state because they're tired of Donald Trump's bullshit, right? And they're tired of the Republicans cheating. And they want to see Democrats not just stand up for their party, but stand up for the country, stand up for America. And the state of Virginia did. Well, you had a judge, and I honestly don't know if he's an activist judge or an extremist judge or a Trump judge. I really haven't paid attention to that part of the reporting, because there's a little part of me that just kind of doesn't really give a shit. I mean, I do, but then I really don't, sort of thing. It's for whatever that's worth. But you had this judge who basically didn't just put the gerrymandering decision from the that the voters in Virginia chose on hold. He just fucking said no to everything. It's unconstitutional. Republicans sued. He, with very, very little it seemed like very, very little consideration. He just flat out said no. And he struck down the election in essence. But, in our court system, as we've learned from the Republicans over and over again, never being held accountable for their actual crimes or, their alleged crimes, that you can almost always appeal. And that decision is being appealed now to another court. And then, if depending on what that court decides, that decision will almost certainly, either way, go to the Virginia Supreme Court, where the final decision will be made. Now, I've heard legal analysts on both sides of pro-democracy legal analysts, because there's no point listening to legal analysts on Fox News because it's just propagandist bullshit, right? But the pro-democracy legal analysts, I've heard opinions from, on the one hand, that don't worry about this. There's the Supreme Court of Virginia, as Republicans in Virginia tried to keep this initiative from even being placed on the ballot. Then when it was placed on the ballot, they tried to intervene several times, and the Virginia Supreme Court basically said, fuck off. So don't worry about it. The Supreme Court will sigh. It would be a rare day, in essence, was the crux of this legal analysis. It would be a rare day that a Supreme Court in a state like Virginia would be loath to go against the will of the voters. So, and since the state of Virginia, since they allowed the vote to happen when they could have put a stop to it, there's no reason for concern, and that's comforting to me. I that logically it kind of makes sense to me. And then the other argument I've heard is basically panic, right? It's basically our typical, not unnecessary. Well, it is. I think it's unnecessary, but not ununderstandable. Like, it's what we typically do as Democrats. We get frustrated, and we get angry, and we panic, right? And it's like a combination of panic and angry, and that feels like, to me, the other side of the thought process right now, which is like, fuck, we actually won. The voters decided on this. It's a win for democracy. And now the courts are going to take it away from us. What are we going to do? Now are we going to be okay? This would have made it easier to win the House. You think? You're talking for like what did you go from, like a 6-4 or a 6-5, 6 to 5 seats, 6 seats Democrat, 5 Republican, or maybe it was the other way around in Virginia. I don't know, to a 10-1. That this was good. Democrats would have a 10-1 advantage in the state of Virginia, and Virginia would, in essence, become a blue state congressionally, at least until the demographics of these lines, these newly drafted lines, change, right? So, and now we're screwed, and now we might not win the midterms. So, I struggle with that perspective at this point, just because of the most. I've talked about this. I feel like I've talked about it a million times, but just because of the most viable, most accurate, real-time data that we have about how the midterms are almost certainly going to play out, right? And that's not polling, because polling has been wrong this whole year. There are so many. There have been so many special elections and regular elections since the village idiot Donald Trump was inaugurated on January 20th, 2025, that have suggested close races where the Democrats just fucking blew away Republicans, because Democrats are overperforming from anywhere from 5 to like 30 points in election after election. And even when they lose elections in deep red districts, like congressional special elections and stuff like that, even when they lose those elections, you see these just massive swings. The most recent one was Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat, right? And the Republican in Georgia, right? And whoever the Republican dipshit is that was running the MAGA, dumbass that was running for it with Trump's endorsement, he won the seat, but you had by what was it, by 8 or 10 points, which again in a deep, deep, deep red district that Trump won by like 37 points or some shit. It was like a 30-point swing. It was a 30-point underperformance by the Republican, right? And you can make the argument it was the same overperformance by the Democrat, and you can make the argument that they had a good candidate, a really good candidate, and it's just Trump is so fucking bad. And I struggle with this ridiculous argument that I think it's ridiculous. I know I have new friends now as I'm meeting more people in chorus who disagree with me on this, and I respect their opinion. But I think this argument that Democrats need to be for something as opposed to against something, no, they do, and that helps, and that's imperative. But it's not going to lose us the election this time. Democrats are not winning special election after special election after special election after regular election after regular election and overperforming in deep, 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 deep red districts and almost winning them sometimes, and sometimes at the state and local levels, flipping deep red districts. That's not happening because Democrats are because we're offering something. It's not happening because we're offering something. It's happening because Trump is so bad. This is absolutely going to be election against Trump, period. And then if you get a great, not if, when Democrats put a great candidate up, it's the icing on the cake. It's the 100% guarantee. It's what makes Marjorie, even though the Republican in Marjorie Taylor Greene's former district won by like 8 points, the fact that they had that as Democrats, we had a damn good candidate, the 30-point swing wasn't him. That wasn't him. That was Donald Trump. But that 8 to 10-point deficit, now that Republicans are aware of how, that you're allowed now because so many of your friends either didn't vote or went out and voted for Donald Trump, they're going to take a look at this guy and they're going to say, well, maybe we can vote for this guy. Maybe we can vote for a Democrat. Maybe it's okay. And then if he's awesome and he offers something to the constituency, you know what? You're going to flip a couple of seats there. And that's not just going to happen in the House. I know I've had debates. My friends, some of my new friends that I've gotten to know over the past few months think I'm naive, and I might be. And I'm, a bit of a political idiot, and I might be, because I'm wrong a lot, right? Mitch is wrong all the time. He's so much wrong. I can't even talk to him anymore. He's so wrong. By the way, I'm waiting. I ordered like 2 weeks ago my Trump wig and tie. And I don't know what the fuck's going on Amazon, but I need it. Because I don't know how long this motherfucker is going to continue to be functioning. He seems okay, relatively speaking, but he's not well, right? He's losing his mind. So I got to get my thing, my wig, so I can put it on when I do my Donald Trump stuff. But anyway, let me just see what's going on. Lacey, if the Virginia High Court says it's illegal, then couldn't it go to the Supreme Court and would affect Texas and CA gerrymandering too? It can't be legal in one state and not in others, can it? Oh God, Lacey, you just scared the crap out of me. No, it can't. Well, they'll do anything to fuck us over. So yes, the answer, at least to the extent that I understand it, is no and yes, I think. From the reporting that I've read and the assessment that I've seen from legal analysts, the Virginia Supreme Court is the final. Hey, Roz, how are you? The Virginia Supreme Court is the final, in this particular instance, arbiter of this particular matter. Now, I may have that wrong, but I'm pretty sure I've got it right. I've seen that. I haven't. I've just seen headlines of that. Quick shut. From some of my favorite legal analysts, just quick posts in on Blue Sky and stuff like that. So, definitely don't take it to the bank. Fact check me on it. Let me know if I'm wrong about it. Is Gamer here because he's usually our real time fact checker. But I think that's correct. But I also believe that, you could have procedural, well, this is also a procedural issue too in Virginia. But I think you could have procedural concerns or issues in some of these other redistricting fights that could make their way up to the Supreme Court. I think in California, in Texas. And I know the only other thing I know is if you follow the Democracy Docket, if you follow them on Blue Sky or here on Twitter, it's definitely worth your time. I'm always like asking people to subscribe to my platform, Xenocracy. Please do here on Substack. And if you over on YouTube, I don't have subscriptions open yet because I don't have a large enough following, but I will open them soon. Once I get about 500 more folks. So let's see if we can get to 1,000 folks soon, so I can do that. But please come over. Please follow me on YouTube. But please also come over to Xenocracy on Substack. But Mark Elias here on Substack and on Twitter, he runs the Democracy Docket. He's a lawyer. He's our guy fighting for democracy. He's been doing it since 2020 when it was his firm that fought the vast majority of lawsuits when the Village Idiot was trying to overturn the election before January 6th. So, his firm is now, I know his firm is involved in several different gerrymandering cases. Let me make a note. He's actually come to Chorus and given us briefings, and they're really good. I know there's no chance just because we haven't grown large enough yet. I could get him personally to come here. But he has some really good reporters for Democracy Docket, and see if I can I'm going to reach out to them and also reach out to my friends at Chorus to see if, again, I can't imagine I'm going to get Mark to come, but even some of his reporters that are handling this are experts, and it would be just awesome if we could get them to, if I can get somebody to come out here to really explain to us all of the different court cases right now, and and what stands where. Because as I said, the vast majority of them, they're fighting for democracy across the board, but gerrymandering and general efforts to interfere with the 2026 election. There's several court cases going on. So that's anyway, Lacey. That half-assed answer is what I think. That's what I think is happening right now. I think a few of the I don't think the Virginia case goes to the Supreme Court if the Virginia Supreme Court decides it's legal or illegal. I think that's the end of the road for that one. And I think there are active cases. And again, I don't know if it's California or Texas or Missouri or North Carolina, but I think there are active cases right now that are being adjudicated in state court, but that could find their way to the Supreme Court. But I can't explain to you why that is, or I can't pretend. I mean, I could, but it wouldn't be very believable. I shouldn't pretend to know any more about it than that, because that's all I know. Hopefully we can get some answers. And if I know if I can't get anyone on here, I know one of our, our researcher, and she's just awesome. our researcher over at Chorus can find out can get me the whole kit and caboodle. So I'll definitely have that for you guys at some point soon. See what I can get out of that. Um. So anyway, so we'll see what happens in Virginia at this point. We'll see what happens with the Virginia Supreme Court. But my feeling about it is why I had mentioned before. I'm not an advocate of panicking. I don't think it matters, you know, whether or not Virginia is a win for Democrats when all is said and done. I don't think it matters no matter how many states the Republicans are able to gerrymander when all is said and done, to be honest with you. And I think Maryland is still on the fence. If Florida goes forward, Maryland can still, is still on the fence. They can move forward with gerrymandering. New York can certainly get into the game, if they need to. There's plenty of Democratic strongholds that still have time to get into the game. Minnesota, there's you now have basically a progressive Supreme Court in Minnesota. So just in terms of playing the game that the Republicans want to play, they're learning very quickly that if you play the games that Donald Trump instructs you to play, you lose because he's a loser. You lose because he's an idiot. You lose because he doesn't have the capability, the intellectual prowess, or even the baseline intellectual capacity to plan out anything. It's all fucking impulsive. So they're losing badly at this game, and they're going to lose even further. And specifically, just an opinion about the Virginia situation. The U.S. electorate in any state tends not to react positively when they get something and they choose something and then politicians take it away from them. They have a tendency to punish those politicians. They don't like that. Like Americans don't like to, we take it personally when on either side of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, we tend to take it personally when we go and we're offered a choice and we choose something and then we have something and then some asshole politician takes it away from us. And even my belief is that even supporters of the village idiot Donald Trump, the ones that aren't cult members, the ones that are cult members, there's nothing you can do about that. They're gonna anything Trump does is fine. He is Jesus, and it's all good. But I believe that Virginia is full of people who still consider themselves Republicans, people who still like Donald Trump's abhorrent policies. They are people that are just, they are vile racists themselves, and they love the bigotry, the racism, the hatred, but they draw a line at the government taking something away from them. They draw a line at defying the will of the voter. Now, again, the ones who want an authoritarian rule, the cult members, I don't think they fall into this category. But I do, especially as I spend a lot of time now, too much time on X, because I like to post on X for one reason and one reason only, although I haven't built a community, is I've learned I can generate revenue through starting arguments with MAGA extremists on X, and I can generate revenue through X. So the potentiality to build my platform and my business off of the backs of screaming MAGA cult members is in its own way mildly appealing. Now, it hasn't been lucrative at all because I don't spend enough time on there to really build out. But I'm playing with it. I'm sort of playing around with it and putting a minimal amount of time into the space, but more time than than you should put in there without being dented by the absurdity of what goes on in the space. But I have seen that there is this tremendous rift in the Republican Party right now, and that's the That's the Candace Owens and the Tucker Carlsons and the Megyn Kellys who are finally coming out and sort of joining the Marjorie Taylor Greens, Megyn Kelly less or so, uh, because they're unhappy with the village idiot, Donald Trump. That includes the incels and the racists and the, white supremacist creeps, as some of them, not all of them, but includes some of them as well. But what I've discovered in that space is there's a lot of them who don't like that. Not only do they not like an oligarchy that is out to screw them, but they don't like Trump taking away things that they believe they've achieved through elections. And they're starting to see that he's not just doing that to them, he's been doing that to us. And I think you're going to have a lot of if this if the Supreme Court of Virginia flips this election over and hands a win to Republicans out of the hands of the voters, I think there's actually going to be a Republican MAGA backlash. Not a cult. I know, some of you are probably laughing and saying, Mitch, come on. That's not the cult members. You're not going to see it from them. But I think you're going to see it from a sizable enough number of Republicans that during the midterms will stay home. And I think you're going to see some red district flips in Virginia that are going to further benefit Democrats. That's just what I think, for whatever it's worth. So that's that story. Let me just see if there's any more comments. Lacey, that's good. Your vein in your head popped when you read my message. It must have scared you and Gail. No, this thing is not indicative of stress levels. I have noticed, when I was a little kid, the vein didn't pop out because you're like a kid and like your skin isn't stretched and the shit doesn't like start happening. But it like you can see when I do this, when I smile, it kind of pops. It just is as I age, it's just part of my anatomy. So it's never a tell to whether or not I'm stressing, because when I'm laughing hysterically or even even when I'm faking it, well, it's not coming out. I can feel it. And what I've discovered as I'm getting a fucking receding hairline, which is indicative of my age, right? And right here as shit's like receding, I have discovered that the groove, the weirdo groove in my head that affords the vein the opportunity to pop out, it's like a dent in my skull that I must have had all my life. It like actually goes all the way up and it like goes all the way back. So it's anatomical as opposed to emotional. So, whenever you see the vein popping, don't necessarily assume it's an emotional response, because it's just something that happens. Go figure. And the older I get, the more pronounced it becomes. So, it's all good. So anyway, on that, hey Catherine, how are you? So on that note, that's the Virginias. That's what I think. So that's where I stand with Virginia. I'm gonna feel, if I'm gut honest, I'm gonna feel excited and euphoric and enthusiastic if the U.S. if the Virginia Supreme Court says fuck you to the GOP, and it stands, it's going to be a great feeling, a nice feeling to have, like it was when like it is every time Democrats win a seat that they shouldn't have won, or they overperform astronomically, in every election, which is every data point that I'm using now. Like, you don't even need polling to figure out what's going to happen in the midterms. And by the way, guys, when the polling starts coming out, when your favorite news outlet, it's polling, take it with a grain of salt. Remember that here in New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill and Jack Ciattarelli were polling neck and neck as the race was dialing down. Mikey Sherrill clobbered him by 12 points, almost 13 points. And that never happens in a New Jersey governor's race. every election has, I can't say every, but almost everyone that I can think of that that I paid attention to over the last year, where the Democrats have overperformed and won by 5 to 25 points. I feel like every one of them polls closely. I don't think the polling's inaccurate. Well, I think it's inaccurate, but I don't think it's a problem that the pollsters have. I don't think polling as it exists in this moment is designed to be able to measure the "we hate Trump" factor. I don't think it can take that, these samples that the pollsters use, even with algorithms and everything else. I don't think they are the pollsters are underperforming over and over again, about just how much Donald Trump, the country hates Donald Trump. And I even think the approval ratings are probably skewed. I mean, the idiot in an AP NORC poll yesterday, the Village Idiot polled at 33%, right? That was its general approval rating, right? He just a few days before that, it was I'm trying to remember which poll it was. Some poll. He was at 37%, right? And we've all been asking ourselves, knowing that everybody hates him, how the hell can he be polling that high? I've been, yammering for months now about my breathe easy level when it comes to, the future of our democracy. When he's in the 20s consistently, I've stopped worrying about the politics. He's done. It's over. It's done. Done, 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 done. You don't need to worry about politics and Donald Trump. There is no more Donald Trump in terms of politics. There's just the authoritarian coup. And I have a personal benchmark, for whatever that's worth, that when he's polling in the 20% across the board in overall approval ratings with everybody other than Republicans, we're good. We don't even have to worry about the authoritarian coup anymore, because Republicans will grow a spine at that point if they're still in charge of anything. So as we're seeing this polling out at like 33%, like the polling's finally kind of slowly catching up, I feel like, and again, this is just my opinion for whatever that's worth, I feel like he's polling the methodology that the pollsters use just cannot. It cannot match the actual reality about how many people despise the stupidity of this presidency. And I would envision he's polling in the low 20s in real life. Like, if somehow you could capture that, because again, I think that the actual metric, which is election outcomes, is indicative of that. That's just what I think. So that's enough of that. So let me just pull up another story. I know, unfortunately, Substack, you can't see it. Let me see. Maybe you can. Let's try. Let's experiment here and try a screen share. All right. I don't know how this is going to go, guys. So Substack, hang on. Let's see what happens. Share this window. Look at that. Pretty good, Substack. Pretty good. So I have that. So anyway, there was I heard Ben Masalis from the Midas Touch News Network covered this earlier this morning, and I didn't know anything about it, and I'm glad that he did, because it's a pretty good story. It's not good. It's just an interesting story. So let me just read it together. Oversight members split over whether to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, committee chair says. The only convicted associate of Jeffrey Epstein said she would testify to Congress if granted clemency, a power held solely by the president. There are oversight members. Now, it's not the Oversight Committee is the House committee led by Republican, led by the only active Smurf in the U.S. state, House of Representatives. That's Jim Comer, and also Republican. The Oversight Committee has been making every effort they possibly can to pretend to do an investigation and to cover the Epstein files up for the village idiot Donald Trump. But Oversight Democrats at the same time have done an incredible job of forcing the investigation to be real and exposing the cover-up of the cover-up in the Oversight Committee. They have been doing an outstanding job of leaking information effectively when necessary to move public opinion to get the truth out. And Comer, no matter how good his efforts are, he's consistently undermined by Donald Trump's stupidity, Donald Trump's impatience, and also just his own fucking lack of moral clarity. All of those things have ruined Comer's efforts. He looks like a buffoon, he acts like a buffoon, and he is a buffoon. And when you have a buffoon covering for a bigger buffoon, you have double the buffoonery, and the cover-up becomes comical. Except it's not comical to the victims, it's not comical for the rule of law, it's not comical to the world, because the world is actually the rest of the civilized world. The Europeans are actively prosecuting people, investigating, and in some cases prosecuting people who are rapists, people who have lied, people who have abused their public office to cover up for their behavior in the Epstein debacle. So, James Comey has done none of that, and he's the laughing stock. I really think if there's a laughing stock of the Epstein cover-up, it's James Comer, in my opinion. So Comer, some of the other Republicans who are as much of a joke as Comer is, if not more, some of the Republicans on the House Oversight Committee want to give Ghislaine Maxwell, they want the village idiot Donald Trump to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, so Ghislaine Maxwell will then testify before the House Oversight Committee. She was ordered by the House Oversight Committee to testify. She came, she pled the fifth. She said she wouldn't say anything about anything. There's no doubt in my mind that, Todd Blanche, at the time he was the Deputy Attorney General, who's also actively involved in the cover-up. There's no doubt in my mind that he, in some capacity, directly or indirectly, coordinated with James Comey. I think James Comer, not Comey, is a different James. And so when Ghislaine Maxwell did come to testify, I don't think Republicans were the least bit surprised that she pled the fifth. Hang on one second. I'm having a bit of a flashback. No, they couldn't have done it. There was someone who came to testify where none of the Republicans showed up, but it wasn't Maxwell, was it? Nah, couldn't. My memory should serve me on this, but we've been so, and the village idiot achieved what he wanted. We've been so thrown off by the stupid fucking war in Iran that. Does anybody remember? Anybody in the chat out there? I'm sorry, YouTube. I'm not looking I'm not able to see your chat right now. But anybody in the Substack chat, I can't remember who was it that who were they interviewing that I don't think it was Les Wexner. It wasn't. Yeah, everybody had to be there. I remember now. It was Wexner. It wasn't it was one of the the sexual abusers. They didn't want to show up for that. So who was actually helping to protect Epstein and probably inadvertently Trump. But they were all there for Ghislaine Maxwell's deposition, and I'm sure Comey knew exactly what she was going to do. And I'm sure it was planned. But now you have some Republicans on the Oversight Committee who want Trump to pardon Maxwell so that she will agree to testify before the House Oversight Committee. And obviously, what's the clear implication of that, right? She's going to, in exchange for a pardon, she's going to lie like she did, right? She's just going to do it and this Comey's not doing this, by the way. The article, let me just I don't need to I don't need to make Comer look worse than he already is. The article is clear. He says he's not a supporter of this. Doesn't matter. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. But he said he's not behind this. He doesn't believe she should be pardoned. So just full disclosure, and to be fair to Jim Comer, he is not one that's advocating for this. But he won't tell us which Republicans on the House Oversight Committee want her to testify. I guess the belief is that she'll get up there and she'll lie, and she'll say, Donald Trump is such a good man. I love him so much. He was so nice to me and my father. He was a friend of father, and father loved him so. And he's always been so nice to me, and he loves me so. He coddled me, as a matter of fact, when I was a baby. It was so adorable. He loves me like a daughter, and he's always been very kind. I've never seen President Trump, do anything bad ever to anyone. He's a lover of people, and he respects women like nobody's business, eh? Right? I expect her to, because that's what when Todd Blanche released that supposed interview with her, right? When the transcript was released, and we heard her saying basically that Donald Trump was so good to me. He's never been unkind. He's such a kind man. That clearly was the setup, right? And what did she get for doing that? What was the quid pro quo? I'm having trouble with that word today. She got moved from a horrible maximum security prison where sex offenders of her at her level are housed, to a minimum security club fed, as they call it, I think in Texas, right? And she was afforded a therapy dog, meditation classes, right? I don't know if it was a meditation classes or a yoga mat, access to classes, different nonsensical things like this. So she made, and there was ample reporting at the time from independent journalists, and then it trickled up to the mainstream media, where that simply doesn't happen with sex offenders who are serving 20 years. They never get that. And when that kind of treatment, and when sociopath Pam Bondi, who was the attorney general at the time, was asked about, well, why? Why did she get that? Bondi was like, I don't know. You have to ask the Department of Prisons. That's not my job. And of course, the Department of Prisons, when they were asked about it, said you have to go back and ask the Department of Justice. And an answer was never given. We still don't know who gave the order to move Ghislaine Maxwell, but clearly that was her payoff, right? So these asshole Republicans in the Oversight Committee, James Comey saying that he's not one of them, these asshole Republicans clearly want Trump to pardon the sex offender, the rapist, because the Republican Party is the party of rape. Let me repeat that. The modern Republican Party is the rape party, is the pro-rape young girls party, with the exceptions of Thomas Massie, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, and Anna Luna Paulina, right? Otherwise, and there might be a few exceptions if there are any others that I missed, but otherwise the Republican Party is the party of young girl rapists, right? They like that, and clearly these other people on the House Oversight Committee want to express being a member of the party of rapists, right? By encouraging the idiot to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, so she will come in a sworn statement before the House Oversight Committee and tell them all how wonderful Donald Trump was to her, and how what a grand friend he was to her daddy, and how, she certainly saw rapists going on with the Democrats. Rape, rape, rape. Democrats were raping away, but not Bill Clinton, because she did say she'd have to go back. She would have to, she did say that Bill Clinton didn't do anything wrong, so she would have to perjure herself, which that wouldn't be a problem. She's done that before, but actively perjure herself to speak about Clinton. So, the rape party wants to have her pardoned, and we'll see what happens. So but anyway, let me just, to keep myself honest, let's just read a little bit of the reporting just to make sure I didn't screw any of it up. Members on the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee are divided over whether President Donald Trump should pardon Jeffrey Epstein's convicted co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, in exchange for her cooperation in the panel's Epstein investigation, Chair James Comer said in an interview on Wednesday. Maxwell, who was deposed by the House Oversight Committee as the sole convicted accomplice in the Epstein sex trafficking scheme, previously invoked her Fifth Amendment right in declining to answer the panel's questions. Her lawyer said that she would only speak if she were granted clemency, a power available solely to the village idiot Donald Trump, who has not ruled out the prospect of a pardon. And with Trump devolving mentally and emotionally every single day, with him becoming more erratic, making crazier and crazier decisions. I mean, he posted. You guys, I didn't post this on Substack yet, but you'll see it on my on my Facebook accounts or Blue Sky or Instagram. He reposted some right-wing sociopath lunatic posted something like, if you have one side, in reference to Iran, one side who wants a peace deal and the other side who doesn't want to make, one side wants to make a deal and the other side doesn't want to make a deal, kill the people who don't want to make a deal. That's the kind of shit that the idiot reposted on Truth Social today. So, like, he's losing his ability. And what we, if the suggestions from the actual mental health professionals that he's suffering from prefrontal dementia, is that what it is? I can't remember the name of it. That particular form of dementia forces those who are suffering from it to lose their ability to their impulse control. They lose their ability to have any impulse control, and as he's losing his ability to have impulse control, not that he had that much of it to begin with, it's not unthinkable that he would, if he gets pressured from some, extremist MAGA Democrats in this committee, he does it. He's like, I think it's a great idea. I'm going to pardon her. What happened to her? What happened to Maxwell? I'm going to tell you right now, was very bad. It was a very bad. She didn't deserve it. She's being treated very poorly. And I have confidence. I've been told by many people that what she did it wasn't illegal. She didn't rape anyone. She's actually a victim. It's a shame for her. And we got to have her she's got to testify. It's the only way we're going to get to the only way we're going to get to, she has to testify. If she doesn't testify, we're not going to get to the truth. And you're going to prove that Trump is innocent. I never did anything wrong with anybody. And I won the 2020 election. And Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, he signed with the pens, the auto pen. I don't use an auto pen. I passed 3 cognitive tests. No other president, even Barack Hussein Obama, could never pass the test. We're going to get that, right? We're going to get, that could just happen. That could just happen. It could happen tomorrow. There is you could have, things are going poorly. The Iranians are completely ghosting the U.S. in terms of these negotiations. The village in Iran, the village idiot has already tacoed out. He's chickened out, right? He's afraid of Iran at this point. He's afraid that they're beating him. He has chickened out. He's extended his deadline. His rhetoric is getting softer now. He's going to just declare some stupid victory in Iran and pull out, God willing. But if things go really bad and something even worse happens that makes this idiot look worse, that could be the thing. It's not unthinkable already. Right, Melania Trump, if you remember, came out, a week and a half ago or some shit, I know it feels like 2 years ago, to tell us all, I did not have anything to do with Epstein files. Epstein was not friend to me of my knowing in any of the ways. And Ghislaine Maxwell, she is only the person of timing that I once spent to know. It was just friendly garb in talking. And it was good, but I am not the friend of who, whatever the fuck that was, right? That bizarre fucking it's not unthinkable that fucking wackadoodle, whatever the hell she was talking about, press conference that she didn't know Epstein was an effort to was an organized effort to distract from the war. Right? So it might not have been, it might not be that either. It might be that there's something breaking and she was trying to get out in front of it, but it could have been an organized effort to distract from the war. And if things go bad with the ceasefire talks, or we wind up at war again, the thing that the idiot might do to distract from the war might be that fucking morning after, hearing from these Republicans on the House Oversight Committee, I have pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. Right? Don't be surprised. And then she goes and, tells us in front of the House Oversight Committee how incredible he is, how wonderful he is. And, we'll see. Anyway, so when asked whether he believed it was a favorable deal to issue a pardon in return for Maxwell's testimony, Comer said, a lot of people do. And Comer continued, my committee is split on that. He added, declining to name who on the panel supported granting a pardon. Quote, I don't speak for my committee. Comer himself wasn't in favor. I think it looks bad, he said. Honestly, other than Epstein, the worst person in this whole investigation is Maxwell. Quote, that would be a huge step backwards and quite frankly, so disrespectful to the survivors, he said in an interview. She's a known abuser. She is a known liar. Let's remember this, okay? Let's remember this. Because if and when the idiot comes out and pardons her, if he needs that distraction, or if he just loses his impulse control, and if he pardons her, because now he knows he's got these Republicans, and it's hard to think that these Republicans on the House Oversight Committee who want her pardoned, it would be hard to imagine. It would be unreasonable to think they're not actively talking to the idiot about it at this point, right? They're not negotiating with him at this point, right? So remember Comer's words, because if and when he does pardon her, you're going to see a full-throated push, I imagine. Maybe that's the red line finally for Fox News and Newsmax, but I doubt it. My guess is you're going to see them return to something they tried earlier, a full-throated effort to declare Ghislaine Maxwell was also one of Epstein's victims. She was sexually abused by him. She didn't really engage in grooming of the young girls. She was forced into it. He controlled her purse strings. You're going to hear all these novel legal theories and all these conspiracy theories. They're just going to make shit up on the internet about how he, I don't know, maybe we'll make some shit up for them. How he was blackmailing her brother because they were going to kill her brother if Epstein was going to have the brother murdered if she didn't do what Epstein wanted her to do. I mean, it's just going to be some crazy, stupid shit, right? Like that. And I would not be stunned if we go from Jim Comer saying that would be a huge step backwards and quite frankly, so disrespectful to the survivors. She's a known abuser. She's a known liar to, well, now new information has come out. And, we have to, the Department of Justice is investigating whether or not Ghislaine Maxwell was under duress herself. And it's the president's power to pardon whoever he wants. And he understands all of the legal strategy and all of the legal thing. He has access to information we don't. And I stand behind the president and blah, blah, blah. So we'll wait for that shift if we get to that point. God forbid. Continue. If the DOJ or oversight Republicans are trying to negotiate some sort of pardon, that is not only a huge slap in the face of the investigation to anyone, the American public, he added, it's part of a massive cover-up. So we'll see. We'll see if Comer, stays there. I mean, I actually didn't read that. That's a pretty bold. Maybe Comer has a red line. Maybe I'm always willing to change my perspective, even in mid-thought, if I I didn't read this article. We're reading it together. I just read the headline. Let me read that again just to make sure I didn't screw that up. But Comer continued, if the DOJ or oversight Republicans are out there trying to negotiate some sort of pardon, that is not only a huge slap in the face of this investigation to anyone, to the American public, he added, it's part of a massive cover-up. That is meaningful, right? That is Comer saying something I didn't expect to hear from him. And when I started to read it, I thought that maybe that was someone else. But, he said, again, it doesn't mean he won't backtrack on it. But if he is distancing himself from oversight Republicans who are pushing the village idiot right now, if you read between the lines, he seems mad that oversight Republicans are going behind his back and they're actively negotiating with the idiot. Now, maybe that's just an ego thing. He feels like it's an end around and he's mad and he could care less because he is actively covering up himself. Maybe he's worried about that. Maybe he's starting to consider maybe he sees the writing on the wall. Maybe he knows the Republicans are going to get crushed in the fucking midterms. Maybe he knows that there could be potential. He's seen stuff we haven't seen, that there could be state crimes that could be prosecuted against Ghislaine Maxwell in, say, the state of New York, or against Donald Trump in the state of New York. Maybe he's come across shit and he's aware of it, and he doesn't want to be an accessory to the crime. Maybe he's aware of, the international criminal investigations, and he could see if the village idiot part. I don't know. I'm just completely speculating here, but that is not what I expected to read when I read this article. So that that kind of makes me think a little bit. Let's continue. The oversight committee. I usually won't read this far into an article with you, when we're just kind of hanging out, but I think it's a good idea. And we'll wrap this in a second. I don't have my my daily briefing today. That's not why I'm not jumping off the phone. Actually, let me just check, guys. I'm pretty sure I don't have my daily briefing today, but let me just do a quick check. Because we're really not supposed to miss those. I don't see anything, any new updates, and let me just check my email because I'm pretty sure our briefing is canceled for today. Nope, I think I'm good. So let me just go for about 5 more minutes and then we will, we'll wrap up the live anyway, because I think you guys have heard me babbling incessantly long enough. The Oversight Committee probe's work has been complicated by the fact that Maxwell is unwilling to, hang on. Let me go up a paragraph. Pressure has been mounting on the Justice Department to pursue new prosecutions in the Epstein case, particularly after the United Kingdom arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly known as Prince Andrew, and former Ambassador Pete Mandelson for crimes related to their association with the disgraced financier. The Oversight Committee's probe's work has been complicated by the fact that Maxwell is unwilling to answer questions, and the central figure, Epstein, died behind bars years ago. That wasn't years ago. I guess it was 2019. It was years ago now. Maxwell's lawyer, David Marcus, told Politico in an extended interview last month that he believed there was a good chance his client would ultimately be pardoned by the president. Marcus said he's reached out to then Deputy Attorney Todd Blanche last year to help facilitate Maxwell's interview with the Department of Justice. She was granted limited immunity. Limited immunity. I don't know. It just sounds like a Trump word. It's not. For that 2-day conversation and moved to a minimum security prison camp, which we've talked about a little bit earlier. In her interview with Blanche, she emphasized that she had not seen Trump engaged in impropriety with Epstein. The president's relationship with Epstein has been the source of much intrigue, blah, blah, blah. Garcia said the Oversight Committee should investigate why and how Maxwell was moved to a different facility. I agree with you there. Okay, guys, I missed a paragraph here. I'm so sorry. I have to take back all of the shocking things that I thought Jim Comer said, because it wasn't Jim Comer. It was Garcia. It was Congressman Garcia. I missed this paragraph right here. My apologies for that. It seemed too weird. That didn't make. Representative Robert Garcia, the oversight panel's top Democrat, emphasized that committee Democrats unanimously opposed a pardon for Maxwell. Garcia, not Comer, said that would be a huge step backwards and, quite frankly, so disrespectful to the survivors. He said in an interview, she is a known abuser. She is a known liar. If the DOJ and oversight Republicans are out there trying to negotiate some sort of pardon, that is, not only is that a huge slap in the face of this investigation to anyone, to the American public, he added, but it's part of a massive cover-up. Yeah, it felt weird that Comer would have been saying that. So anyway, that's that story. So my headphones are falling off my head. That's what happens when you buy $15 headphones. Probably need to get a better pair, guys. I was speaking of getting a better pair of headphones. That might be a perfect time to throw in a pitch for Xenocracy.news and to wrap the live. If you are a subscriber and you're watching this, thank you so much. If you are watching this and you don't subscribe to our publication here at Substack, please do. I want to grow this community as large as we can. This is one of our spaces, and there are many of them, and I recommend you join as many as you can to stand up and help fight and save our democracy. If it is comfortable for you, and you feel like it's something you can do right now and would like to, please become a paid monthly subscriber. You can do that also here at Xenocracy.news. And if you folks that are over on YouTube, as I said, my subs are a little too small right now to be able to monetize YouTube. I need to grow. So if you would please, if you enjoyed this live, please subscribe on YouTube, and it will help. It will help grow the channel. I'm going to be shifting the YouTube channel in a little bit because I want to have some differentiation between what we're doing here on Substack and what we're doing here on YouTube. But for right now, while I'm sort of small, it's good to cross post and cross reference content. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you for being here. 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one live at a time. That's how we continue to make it through this insane administration. We just keep chunking through it. Come November, after the midterms, we'll take a little bit of a deep breath because we'll know that there are some guardrails in place. Come January, after the midterms, when Democratic House and Senate, controlled House and Senate are sworn in, we can breathe a sigh of relief that at least the autocratic coup can be controlled to a certain extent. And then we're just going to get there for another 2 years, and we're going to get through this. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. So I have 2 separate platforms running at the same time. So let me wrap YouTube. I'm going to wrap you guys first by wrapping the streaming software, and then we'll wrap the folks over on Substack. So